All right. Welcome back, everybody, on a Football Friday. Such a huge weekend. We're live across Game Plus TV and across Nevada, Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Jim, I don't know where to start, man, other than you think it's fun when it kicks off in the fall, like in September. Now, oh my God, it's real. It's real. So I can only imagine where your focus is today.
It's a great time. It's a great time, and I've enjoyed listening to the first half of the show. And I think normally when teams make moves at the end of the year, there is a rule in the CF. The only rule, well, it's nothing during Grey Cup week, but you also have to wait till 7 days after a team loses their last game to talk to anybody from that team. And so the timing comes, you got to remember, you're dealing with families here and things like that. I mean, these coaches are not just chattel. They have families and they have lives, and you have people in the front ownership groups. For example, Ottawa, owned by Osig, who has all those other things. They're getting ready to undergo a huge construction project. And, there's rumors that they're waiting to get an okay on final, funds, and they had a bad year and they need to get some excitement in the organization. So how do you do that? You go out and hire the best coach that you can get. And they made a splash with Ryan, and I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Sean Burke. I mean, it's an interesting move, but I think that's why they're talking about it now, because it normally doesn't happen. Usually they're going to go after somebody who's on one of the teams that's going to be going to the Grey Cup.
Well, should they be disciplined for doing this when they did it, or get a call from the commissioner? No. I mean, they waited till 7 days after Toronto. They got permission. They interviewed him. They offered him. That's the rules. And it's the rules are do nothing between the Eastern Final. There's no announcements to be made between the Eastern Final and the Grey Cup game. That's the rule. So if you're not breaking the rules. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think it's good that we're talking about it. Well, that was my thought yesterday, but I was like 90% of our show was taken up talking about that and not the games. And, you like to hype the game, sell tickets, get ratings. But so we'll move to that. Ryan Dinwiddie, by the way, is coming up in the next segment, the new head coach, GM, and offensive coordinator of the Ottawa Red Blacks, who did not care for Mike Kelly's comments here yesterday that he's taken on too much. We'll get to that next segment.
Okay.
So let
me just quickly, because I am a guy who did that. I was head coach and a GM, and I've done it. And, I understand what Mike is saying. First of all, being the head coach and offensive coordinator, I wish I would have done that. I don't think there's any like what Ryan's been doing. That was the biggest mistake I made, was listening to everybody who said you're not going to have time to do everything. And I hired an offensive coordinator, and as an offensive coordinator myself, it was never, you can have a say, but it's not the same as I'm big on empowering the people under me. You can't empower them if you're constantly putting your nose in there. So what he does with that, I applaud that. Now, in terms of the personnel thing, that's a different story, because the key to, you mentioned John Huffnagel as head coach GM. Well, I had been there for 3 years as a GM when we hired him, and I moved up exactly like what Sean Burke did, so that he could have the title head coach and GM. And that's great. But the personnel staff was in order. I think that's the key. And what the Ottawa organization has said is, Sean Burke has been there 4 years. 3 of those years he's been 4-14. And that's not easy to be 4-14. I mean, I hate to say that, but so they're saying it was all on coaching because it's not personnel, because Sean's going to stay there. He's keeping his personnel staff, good guys. I've met them all. They work hard. So they're saying personnel's not the issue, and that coaching can completely change the thing. So that's going to be interesting to watch. So I wish Ryan good luck. I had this conversation with him that personally, I work for Don Matthews and asked him that question. Don, why don't you ever be the GM? And what he told me, I passed on to Ryan, because I said, Ryan, you're in Don Matthews type of territory. And Don always told me, Jim, I'm the best coach in this league, and I'm going to get whatever money I want. And there's no GM that's ever going to tell me that I'm not going to have this player. And I have the final say on everything. But when I walk in that locker room, I can say, I tried hard to get you that raise, and the front office, they just wouldn't do it. Your persona as a coach changes when you're the GM, when you also are dealing with their money. It's great to be a player's coach, and when you're part of their group, you can do that. But when you're part of the other side of football, because you have the football side and you have the business side, and when you're now running the business side, you can't go in there with the same kind of perception from the players. And I just thought Ryan was at a different level. He didn't need to be the GM. There's nowhere he's going to go where he's not going to have final say, because he can pretty much dictate whatever terms he wants. He's at that point. And again, what happened in Toronto, that I don't know. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, the point is, he's a great football coach, 2 Grey Cups in the number of years he had it. Phenomenal. What happened this year? Vince Magri is gone. I think Vince deserves Alex Russell. Those guys deserve a ton of credit for what happened. Now, Pinball's there by himself with John Murphy as his consultant. And and Ryan, they did it all this year, and they made some really bad moves. I mean, they traded to John Allen, their offensive tackle, who was up for Offensive Lineman of the Year, for Ryder Varga, a backup Canadian linebacker. And then they trade Flo Rimolade. We've talked about him a lot, a difference maker, for a Canadian linebacker. And then they trade the option to get Jackson Finley in the draft at 16, and they trade down 3 picks with BC, who snaps him up immediately, and they end up with so somebody made those decisions. Now, if it's Michael Pinball Clemens, then he's accountable for it. And if it's Ryan, then he learns from it, I hope. But those are the things that go into it. So I just wanted to say that in Ryan's behalf. I'm excited for him. Glad it's happening.
He's coming in next, but here's the media guy in me coming out. All of that talk and nothing on the division final games. So let's do that. Montreal's favored at Hamilton. Riders are favored at home against BC.
Which one?
What do you envision is going to play out? Yeah. What do you envision is going to play out?
Okay, the way I'm going to go with my original picks at the beginning of the year with those 2 teams. Here's the thing with Hamilton and Montreal. So Hamilton beats them twice, and everybody says, well, but they didn't have Davis Alexander, and that's true. But they not only beat them, they beat them up physically. And it was a problem last year I felt BC had with Winnipeg. They physically just weren't going to hang. I think Montreal's got a problem physically, that Mustafa Johnson is out. Lawal Uguak is having problems on the defense, with his knees. He's not able to play a lot. And I think that Hamilton's offensive line is one of the better ones in the league. Barrow is coming around, and I like their offensive line. The second game they played against them, they ran for 256 yards. I mean, Greg Bell had 150 on the ground, 34th. He had almost 200 yards in total offense. Noel Thorpe is Don Matthews' disciple. He believes in you don't give up big plays. And if they want to run the ball, they might run it for 5, for 4, for 5, for 6. And then they're going to say, shoot, this is not, they're going to open it up. Just be patient, and you'll eventually, if you don't give up the big plays, they're going to give it to you. And that's the way Noel is. And Scott understands Noel's philosophy. Noel was with me with Don Matthews. That's a Don Matthews philosophy, is offensive coordinators can't help themselves. Well, Scott has shown that he can do that. So, again, Davis Alexander comes in. They're a different team. And, with all of his, shenanigans and leadership, from a coach's perspective, he's that guy. He's like Samody Lawrence. He's that guy you look at and say, that can't be helpful. But when he's on your side, man, you're so glad he's on your side. And that's Davis Alexander. If I was a GM there, I would bring him in by himself. I would not the coach, the players need to believe in Davis Alexander the way they do. But I thought what he did was, he's played in 38% of their games this year. Not even 40% of their games. Yeah, they have not lost, but he's played in 38%, and he's going to run by the bench of a team that's been to 5 straight Grey Cups. And I felt it was really disrespectful for a young guy who has done absolutely nothing but play in 38% of a team's games to go popping off to another team's bench. if a guy's going to pop off, guys are going to pop off. But when you're the leader that everybody's looking at, I don't believe it's a great look. I think he hurt himself. I think there's no need to do it. There's ways to lead your team without doing that. So, but he's got to be him. I think that's important. Players look at him. They're going to follow him. They completely trust in him. I still believe Bo Levi against the young rookie. I'm going to take Bo Levi until this guy proves it to me. All right, I know you're dying to say stuff.
No, you just convinced me Hamilton's going to win for that. The football god. If the football gods don't get him tomorrow, they'll get him at some point, and it might be tomorrow.
That's kind of the goes into it, and yeah. I think when that fan wrote to you, that's kind of what they had in mind. Not necessarily that they need that to be fired up, but there is something about that. There's a certain respect level that players in this league take personal. And when you go in, you're going to pop off to a team that's been to 5 straight Grey Cups when you don't even play in 40% of your regular season games. There's a problem with that. And if I'm on the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I'm fired up just by that because that's embarrassing my league. So that's my take on Hamilton. Like I say, they don't make mistakes. They don't take penalties. And will Montreal be able to hold up physically inside? Now to the other game. Phenomenal game. I just don't see where the BC Lions can win this. Physically, it's going to come down. Last week, Calgary kicked the hell out of that offensive line. Nathan Rourke didn't have people in his face. It was just, they rushed the passer well, especially inside. Hudgens and those, they forced him to move from the pocket. Well, the Riders have got Micah Johnson, Mike Rose, Ali Saad, Caleb Sanders. There's 4 guys inside. They're the inside 2, the defensive tackle and the nose tackle. And they are vicious, and they will keep them fresh. And this is Corey Mace. That's what he played. They're good in there. So I think Nathan Rourke can be as great as Nathan Rourke wants to be. But they're going to flush him out to Malik Carney on one side, Habubaka Baldonado on the other side. And those guys are going to get get sacks and things. But he's going to be moving, and that's not a good thing for them. I mean, will he get some good runs? Probably. I love the linebacker core in Saskatchewan. Their secondary is going to be back at almost full strength. They're playing Rivas at free safety, and I'd maybe play him at – I don't know enough about Brooks, who's a starting Sam linebacker. But they have Ford back who's ready to pop in. I think they can bring Rivas down weak side to help them against the running game, although, Butler has been hurt and hasn't been practiced all week. So if he plays, he may not be totally healthy. And BC has a thing of they just don't stick with the running game. And so, I'm going to take Saskatchewan all the way. I think it's going to be Saskatchewan and Hamilton, exactly what I called at the beginning of the season.
Gotcha. I think that's got it all covered. If you don't mind, because you have a Vegas flair, if we can switch over to the NFL for a second. And the Raiders played last night on Thursday Night Football. Lost. Yeah. What would you do if you were the Raiders?
He embarrassed Pete Carroll. Embarrassed over 70 coaches that are still, trying to plug away. It was for that team to come out and play that way. I thought was just. I was shocked. And Denver's won 7 in a row or something. Now they're 8-2, and they found a way to win. But Bo Nix showed a lot of flaws in that game. It was as awful a game as you could play. And I don't know if it's the Thursday night thing that's creating it. But, this week, the story to me more has been the trades. I mean, the Jets trading Quinnen Williams.
Go ahead.
Trading, Sauce Gardner. You trade, and you can get all these picks you want. But if you don't pick right, you're not going to win. Now, they picked Sauce Gardner in 22, 4th overall. Now they're trading him to get another first-round pick, which probably won't be that high. So that means they're trading down a bit. They got more than that for him, but still, they get the real chance. And they take Zach Wilson from BYU, 2nd overall, and we now know what's happened. He's been all over the place, and he's in the disaster in Miami and can't get on the field. So they made you can't make mistakes with those picks. You just can't. I mean, New England picks 3rd. They get Drake May. 2 years ago, when you have the second pick overall, and that's who they chose to lead their team. Didn't work out. They bring in Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you know what? I'm going to liken it to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for CFL fans. So that team was in 2019. That team had lost 4 out of 5 games. Chris Streveler was a starting quarterback as Matt Nichols had gotten hurt. They'd lost 4 out of 5 games. The last game of the year, the Argonauts basically just give them Zach Collaros. Just give it to them. And again, the Argonauts were awful. We're not going to the playoffs. And they just handed them Zach Collaros. 1 game. He played 1 game in the 2019 season. Then they go to the playoffs and they win the Grey Cup. And they start 5 straight years of going to the Grey Cup because Zach Collaros fit exactly what Buck Pierce became the offensive coordinator from Paul Law Police, and the rest is history. I mean, you got to get that one player. You got to get that one guy that can turn it. The Seattle Seahawks, I think a guy being overlooked in this whole season is Sam Darnold. I mean, I think they finally got their guy, and I think Sam Darnold is coming into his prime time. You know, you can go get an Aaron Rodgers, and he may give you – like he'll do exactly what he's doing for the Steelers. Will it be good enough to win a Super Bowl? I don't think so. But, you know, that's what he is. So, but you got to get that guy that can take you to the promised land. And, again, in the CFL, that was Zach Collaros. I mean, he hadn't played the whole year because of the Simone Lawrence hit him when he was with the Riders.
Right. But it has to be a fit. It's not Zach couldn't go anywhere. We had him in Sask, and we didn't win.
Exactly.
He couldn't get on the field.
And it's a whole thing of understanding, and this is what Ryan will bring maybe to Ottawa, is a philosophy and a kind of player that he wants. And you've got to have coach fit player. And when the player gets with the right coach, it's history. Sam Darnold was with 3 teams. I mean, Minnesota, he did pretty well, but with the Jets, awful. Didn't matter who the Jets had. They were awful offensively. So they've missed at quarterback, and you can trade and you can keep trading your team away and getting tie picks. But if you pick the wrong guy at quarterback, you're going to be in the same boat. So that's my NFL take this week.
Maybe it's not the quarterback, though. If you watched Hard Knocks, and I'm not really an Aaron Rodgers fan, but, you know, when they follow the guys around, you were part of that with the Argos show they did.
Yes.
I don't know whether you like that or not. But like Aaron Rodgers, if you watched that, and I don't normally watch that, but I did watch the Jets one. And he was like, is this how we do things around here? Things are let to slide, be late for workouts, you know, dropping passes. And so maybe it's not the quarterback, Jim. Oh, we only have 1 minute. You know what I'm saying?
Well, again, it's player fitting system. And again, different to Bill Belichick, whatever he does, he can take Randy Moss, who can destroy a locker room, and he fits in. He's able to play there. Terrell Owens goes to Philadelphia with Andy Reid and completely destroys that locker room, gets him fired. Got him fired. And so different locker rooms can handle any kind of player. I think Andy Reid is now that guy that can take Rashid Rice, can take all those guys, and he can turn them into Super Bowl champions. Got it.
They're going to kick us off. Okay. Thanks, Coach. Enjoy the games. See you in a week.
Great weekend.
You too. Jim Barker checking in, 5-time Grey Cup champion. And we're very excited to welcome next the head coach and general manager of the Ottawa Red Blacks, Ryan Dinwiddie, right after this timeout of Silver State Sports Entertainment Network and Game Plus.